Here's a song you're going to remember. We'd like to welcome Ron Strykert, guitarist and songwriter for the Grammy Award-winning band Men at Work. Their 1983 hit song, Down Under, was on the top of the charts for weeks back in 1983. Ron, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
So, Ron, you co-wrote that song, Down Under, right?
That's right, yes.
That was kind of the national anthem of Australia for a while?
It seemed to be, yeah. It took over as a national anthem.
Yeah, did Mel Gibson kind of hum that a little bit? Or?
I heard rumors he did, yes.
So, Ron, back in the 1980s, your band was the opening act for Fleetwood Mac, and we were talking before, and you said you thought you'd be on the road for 3 months, but you stayed in the United States for 2 years. Walk us through what happened.
Well, we took off from Australia just as 3 months, as we said, like a supporting act, and things snowballed. Our records took off, and we had some hits that became #1 and so forth, and we just kept going. We toured through America and Canada and Japan and England and Europe.
Got used to road food, huh?
We certainly did, yes. It was certainly was a road trip.
Okay, now, was that the time of your life?
I was young, yeah. It was a great time. I mean, it was great seeing a lot of the world and seeing many countries and meeting a lot of people and just playing, you know. It was a great time.
Great. Now, we have a view of rock that's really kind of glamorous, and I understand there's a particle of truth in that, but is there another side to rock?
There definitely is. I think, you know, an audience and people who watch TV and such, we all see the outside, but we don't see so much the scenes behind. And being in the industry, I saw a lot of things behind that you don't see.
I see. Give us a for instance here.
There is a kind of a dark side, as Elizabeth was saying, in music, and I saw that a lot. The things behind the scenes, how musicians were, how the bands were, how the industry was, and even myself, I became darker as things went on, you know.
Give us a picture of what that might look like. Sort of, you know, in other words, we see it in movies, but you were there, you know.
Well, as we probably know, as people know, there's rock and roll and drugs do kind of mix,
yeah.
And that was that life. I did see that life, and I was involved myself with all that. I mean, not everybody in rock and roll is on drugs, and not every entertainer is on drugs, but you know, it is quite common. And when you're playing live, there's an energy that you feel. There's an energy that comes from the audience. You soak up that energy, and really it gives you a lot of energy. And when you're off stage, you seem to go flat. And I didn't really notice this at the time when I was doing this, but after being away from rock and roll and being away from that life, I really thought back about those times and what was going on and what that was all about, and how I became darker myself. I started off very, very happy at first, very light and just, you know, loving music, and slowly becoming like, it seemed like I was going down, really.
Yeah. And you eventually left the band. What happened? Where did you go from there?
When I left the band, I was heavily involved in heroin, actually, and from that, I tried to do my own music, and nothing really took off. I became very sick, really, involved with drugs and so forth. I wanted to stop, and I got into natural health. And as soon as I decided to change and get into natural health, I became interested in spiritual things. A friend of mine gave me a book called Secret Power of Music, and it was a very enlightening book. It had a lot of amazing things written in about Indian culture and Hindus and Chinese culture and ancient music and sacred music, and it was great. It just rang bells in my head. I was so enraptured with this book. It just really opened up, and it felt like I had, these things were all inside of me. This book was like connecting me to something deep inside that was kind of lost.
So that's really how you finally licked your problem.
Yes, I think through that, through a direction of spirituality and reading Eastern philosophy and music, I got a new direction. I got a new lease of life, and got more involved in spiritual kind of music, and I changed my whole style. I changed my whole outlook.
So now that you're off drugs and alcohol, how do you feel?
Oh, much better, much clearer. I write better. I'm clearer in my thoughts and just healthier, you know. And I think that's the thing. It's like playing healthy music. It's like eating healthy food. It really does make a difference.
You're so right. You're so right. So we've got aerobic music, Eastern music, and studies that have shown that rock beat weakens your muscles. You want to tell us about Jane Fonda?
Well, I've been writing some new age aerobic music, and it's been inspiring. And I've altered the beat. I haven't used the rock beat, the syncopated 4/4 standard rock beat that we all kind of know. I've changed it into a more percussive kind of beat.
Now, Ron, before we took a break, you were mentioning that your music had taken some new directions, and I just wondered, what's the current creative flow that you're into these days?
I've been mixing some Eastern styles with a commercial kind of a style, presenting new rhythms and just things I've gotten into. I really got into Indian music and so forth, and a lot of cultural kind of music, ethnic styles and so forth. And I'm very interested in these kind of things, mixing them in a more commercial way, presenting them in a very similar pattern of verse, chorus. And I've used words of bhajan, mantra words, ancient language, was it like Sanskrit of India.
Interesting. And you brought a clip of it today, or a little cut that you could play for us right now?
Yeah, certainly.
Okay, so let's roll that and we'll listen to it, and then maybe you can tell us what we're listening to. Really nice, by the way.
Yeah, it's a song I wrote about Shiva. It actually comes from a bhajan. I use some of the words from a bhajan, which is the Sanskrit language. And it's a spiritual devotional songs that they use in India, and it's becoming popular. Actually, George Harrison and Ravi Shankar just brought out an album of Indian chants. And I got influenced to do that. It just seemed to be the right thing to mix a kind of a West and Eastern kind of sound.
Thing. Very interesting. You know, I know that sacred music is becoming a lot more popular today than it was, let's say, 15 or 20 years ago. And it's you know, the chant album and various things like that. Is this a historical kind of thing, or what's going on here?
Well, in our church, as you know, we have used these mantras for many, many years. We've used them down at the beaches of San Diego and so forth. We think that the sign of Shiva so neutralizes the negativity of darkness that can come out of what we call the pit, the very depths of death and hell, that we play it frequently and with profound reverence, and that's just what Ron's doing.
How does music actually neutralize other forms of music? That's a very interesting concept.
By overpowering it.
I see.
Like the Yankees beating the Dodgers.
Yeah. Well, I'm a Dodger fan, so it goes the other way around here. But in any case, you have taken this and you're going to try to bring this commercially out to a general public now. That's your basic musical or creative thrust?
Yeah, I feel a real mission to kind of do music in a new way, in a new light. I've already done kind of fame and fortune. I've done that once, and I don't really particularly want to do that again in that sense. You know, I was young and it was kind of fun and it was entertaining, but now I feel something more deeper. You know, I want to have songs that have a message, that have some direction, and I want to bring a change, you know, through music, hopefully, you know, and have others follow and just influence people to open them up, you know, into a higher consciousness.
Kind of a higher side. You know, you were talking in the opening segments about, you know, rock and roll having a kind of a dark side, and there was one question I wanted to just, was sticking in the back of my mind, I wanted to ask you, was there some special relationship between drugs and rock? I know that you talked about it a little bit, but is it, you know, drugs are all over our culture and things like that, but does rock play a special role in this?
I think they go hand in hand. They do the little dance together.
Mm-hmm.
I think even in, I've read even in ancient cultures they've had drugs in forms here and there, and you know, even in ancient music they've used drugs to enhance some higher consciousness, but I don't think that's the way to go. I know a clean vibration is definitely the way to go. I get into meditation and so forth, and mm-hmm. being clean, being natural is definitely the way to go. The drugs and the music do go together. You can see that in teenagers, and you know, with alcohol and cigarettes and everything that's kind of addictive. Rock and roll, I think, is addictive. I've played it myself, so it's kind of different when you're listening, you know, as an audience. But mm-hmm. As a musician, having rock and roll music go through you, I felt at times a darkness at times coming through me, like something coming over me, mm-hmm. and I'd create something, and I kind of think, well, what was that? You know, that's not really me. Where did that come from? And when I was young, I didn't really understand these things, but now when I'm in a clearer kind of mind, I start to see these things.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can all be very grateful that you have seen these things and that you have seen them for millions of young people.
Yeah, I feel this wanting to give a direction to young people, you know, through music. I don't think I want to kind of point the finger at people and say you shouldn't listen to rock and roll, you should listen to this. I think it's more of maybe a teaching or understanding, try to help, try to explain, you know, talk to teenagers, talk about what they feel and present them alternatives, you know, alternatives of music. River dance has become very popular, the Irish Celtic music, and I've seen that, and a lot of teenagers like that, and the Lord of the Dance, there's another video of that. And that's what I feel to do, something that gives a direction, gives a hope, and you can become naturally high. There's a natural high to life, you know.
That's the kind of the direction that your new music is taking right now, is trying to kind of elevate people and give them some positive alternatives.
Yeah. Okay. I hope there's more. I feel there's not enough alternative at the moment. That's what I find. I'm a stepdad to teenage girls, and you know, I go through all the life and traumas and all that. But I love them, you know, they're really great. And I've learned a lot from them, you know. And it's hard to sometimes, you know, if you tell them, well, don't do this and don't do that, you sometimes don't always have an alternative in your hands. Like, you need to come up with something else to give them. If you take away rock and roll, we'll say the heavy metal and the rap, which is really bad, you know. Not all rock and roll's so bad. There's grades.
Not all rock and roll's created equal.
No, it's not all black and white. But I think people realize, you can see the public realizing that heavy metal and rap music sometimes goes too far. The gangster rap and such, and the anger and the pain that comes out of the music, you know.
That's fair. Now, Ron, earlier in the program you were talking about the new directions in your music going into kind of a little bit more Eastern, and the rhythms and the beats that were involved there. And I wondered if you could explain a little bit more what the distinction is between what you used to play and the kind of current direction that you're headed in.
Well, I've been using some older rhythms that have been around for a long time, and been changing from the standard rock rhythm, which is a syncopated beat. I guess we all know that from rap music and heavy metal, the boom whack, boom boom whack. That's kind of the rhythm of it, and It's like there's a lot of studies on the effects of that rhythm, what it can do. There's been studies on mice, what rock music can do, on plants and so forth. And I've gotten more involved in Eastern rhythms and ethnic rhythms.
I see. And is it possible you could play a little bit more of the music that you have done for us today?
Certainly,
Sure.
yes.
Okay, great. We'll wait for our technicians to cue this up here, but when they're ready, we'll give a high sign and we'll play a little bit more. The current music that you're doing is going to be a lot more uplifting, help people a little bit more. You know, one thing I noticed back in the 60s, even though it was an age of rebellion, there was a lot more upbeat music. People sang about love, peace, joy, feeling groovy. And today, it seems like there's a lot more music which is a lot more angry or negative or depressed.
Yeah, I definitely see a lot of anger in the music. Being away from the music industry for a while and kind of like taking time out, that's what I did, and read a lot of books and got into spirituality and meditation. And coming back, you really can see what's going on. It's like when you're involved with it, you don't notice it. You're caught up in the city, caught up in life, and you're running around very quickly and everything. And but when you take time out and look at it, there's a lot of anger in music, and I see a lot of pain too. I hear a lot of pain in the music. And to me, it's like we have to get back in contact with our hearts, you know, so
right.
Bring back some love. I think the 60s, it had love, but it was kind of lost in some way. It was involved, you know, with drugs and marijuana, and it was like dropping out. And I don't think it's this time now, the cycle's not to drop out of society, but to stay in society and change it through things like culture, through art, through music, and new ideas, new consciousness, and bring back love. It's like Elizabeth was saying about the waltz rhythm is connected to the heart, and you can really feel that. And there's a lot of music, the popular music doesn't have a lot of heart in that sense.
With a few exceptions here, we're going to play another cut of your music here, which has got some heart in it. So let's let it play here. The rhythms in that were really different from what you demonstrated for us a second ago. Maybe you could explain to our listeners what the difference is?
Yeah, like a standard rock beat is like a boom, whack, boom, boom, whack, boom, whack, boom, boom, whack. And what it does is the whack is on a weak beat in a 4/4 time, where you have 4 beats, 1, 2, 3, 4 beats. And the accenting of that weak beat in a repetitive sense is... if you really feel it and you just take time to listen to it and don't join in with it, but just really observe it, you can feel it, how it kind of can pull you down after time. That's what I started to sense after a long time of playing music like that. And the alternative is playing more on an on beat. You have the Red Indian beat, say the ay 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 ay. That tribal kind of dancing is more on on beat, which is a better thing for you, a healthier thing. The Indian beats, the om rak tak tak ta tak tung tung ta tak tak tung ta tak 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 tak. They're the ancient rhythms, the done on the tablas. I'm not a very good.
I feel just sitting here listening to kind of.
I'm not a great tabla singer. There's actually a whole language in the singing of the tablas, but they have a way of changing their rhythms. They don't stay so hypnotically on one rhythm. They change and move, and they kind of dance more. Rock music seems sometimes a little bit robotic, where it keeps on that beat, that boom, boom, chuck, boom, boom,
Right.
chuck, all the way through a song, you know.
Ron, we're going to come back in a minute now, and we're going to take a break for some commercial messages. But before we do so, I would like to tell you about an opportunity to see Elizabeth Clare Prophet in person on the East Coast, October 9th to 13th. That's when she'll be at the Omni Waterside Hotel in Norfolk, Virginia, for a 5-day conference on practical spirituality. Now, if you're like me, you find it hard to feel spiritual in a traffic jam, or when your 2-year-old is screaming, or when your computer crashes. But you can tap your own source of spirituality in the midst of daily challenges, so you can be more loving, more creative, more enlightened, and more fun to be around. The presentations, workshops, meditations, prayers, and devotions during this conference will nurture your soul and empower you to make the changes you decide are necessary for your ongoing spiritual growth. Find out how by spending a day, an evening, a weekend, or an entire 5 days with Elizabeth Clare Prophet, and learn practical steps to spiritualize your day every day. Find out more by calling 1-800-245-5445. That's at the Omni Waterside Hotel in Norfolk, Virginia, from Thursday, October 9th through Columbus Day, Monday, October 13th. The number is 1-800-245-5445. We'll be right back with Elizabeth Clare Prophet and Ron Strykert, so stay with us. Welcome back to Heart with Elizabeth Clare Prophet. I'm your co-host, Murray Steinman. And if you have a question or comment, it's 621-WALE. We understand that there's a caller on the air. Caller, do you have a question for Elizabeth Clare Prophet or our special guest, Ron Strykert?
Yes, a lot of people my age really like to listen to rock music because we feel like it's exciting and it gives us energy. And why is it, if it's bad, why does it feel so good?
Ron, what do you think?
Yes. I understand what you're saying. There is a feeling of energy to it, and it does kind of build you up. I've found over a period of time that's the effect. It's not an instant effect like you're feeling bad straight away. I think it actually releases the energy you have inside you. I've been studying Indian philosophy, and they talk about the raising of the light, the kundalini, and the life force, the prana. And they talk about how you're meant to keep that in you. And I think rock music releases that. I know at concerts, when you play live, it releases a lot of energy from the audience, and you soak that up. And I think what happens is that over a long period of time, you become drained from that. And that's the effect that I see. It's an addictive effect. It's kind of like drugs in a sense. You feel good for a long time, but over a period of years of using drugs, you become drained. And that's what I'm concerned about with teenagers and such. That, you really have to feel that yourself. You have to kind of search within yourself to what you feel from it.
Now, Ron, thank you very much for being with us here. And we could talk to you for another hour or two. I think that we're going to have to wrap it up right now. And we'd like to have you back on our show. And for all of those of you who have been listening, join us again next week for Heart to Heart with Elizabeth Clare Prophet.